lovely people, Nina here. So this week I figured I would do a bit of a May wrap up. I almost said March, it is definitely May. It's almost June. I figured maybe do a little bit of a May wrap up for all the books that I've read so far this month. And as I'm recording this, it's not the end of May yet. We've got like a few days, I don't know, a couple days left. And so I have 2 books that I'm nearly done with. As I'm recording this, I'm not finished with them, but I will be done with them before the end of May, so I'm including them in this as well because I figured I should include all of the books that I've read, and then maybe in my next video I'll do a more thorough summary review of them. So yeah, these are all the books that I've read so far in May. So 2 of the books I don't have physical copies with because one is Lore of Olympus and I'm reading that on Webtoon, and so I don't have it physically with me, but I can put a picture up. And the other one I checked out from the library and it's an audiobook, so I also don't have that physical book with me. But other than that, I have all the books that I've read. I'll start with this. So I read Sunny Days. I have an entire video on it. It's the one right before this on my channel. If you want to watch my full review of this. I loved this book. I said this was one of my favorite books of the year. This is the children's television revolution that changed America, and it talks about how basically PBS was in PBS Kids and children's educational television was created with Sesame Street, and how they used shows like Sesame Street to entertain but also educate children. This is so good. It covers other TV shows on that were on PBS, like Zoom, which I was a huge Zoom kid growing up, and I loved it. And that was one of the first shows that was you could interact with and write in, and so children would write letters into Zoom, which was fun. Yeah, and basically the evolution of PBS. And then in the end of the book, I don't know if it's really a spoiler because it's not I don't know, I don't think it's really a spoiler, but he talks about how he is concerned, David Camp that's writing this, is concerned with the access to public media and the access to shows like television, Sesame Street, and the future for them if they don't have the funding, and if, yeah, basically the government just doesn't want to give them federal funding for that. And so there's an instance where I think it was originally HBO picked up Sesame Street because, and they got early access to it because they didn't have the money, they didn't have the funding, and so they made a deal with, I think it was originally HBO, and now it's Netflix, if I'm remembering this correctly, recently, because they cut the federal funding for PBS. Donald Trump cut funding for NPR and public programming, and so places like PBS and NPR and all of those are going to be struggling now, so it's more important than ever to watch and donate to them and sign the petition to not have the funding be cut. And yeah, so there's that. I loved this. This is really good. 5 stars. Sunny Days. One of the other ones I read going along the same lines was On Tyranny, and this is by Timothy Snyder. There's an extended version of this, which I didn't realize. This is the original, but there's an extended one that talks about Ukraine and what's happening in Ukraine. And so I kind of want to read that. I feel that's also really, really important to read right now because that's just horrible. But this talks about basically the lessons of tyranny and what we can learn from our past, and how the steps to avoid basically having a dictator in office, and how we can avoid tyranny. And one of the lessons in here too is like educating ourselves with accurate media, and then also speaking about like accurate news, and just reading a lot to be more informed. So reading something like Sunny Days is really important, to read about the history and what's happening with public media and public television. Really, really, really recommend. It is a short read. It is 126 pages. The audiobook is maybe an hour. So if you want to listen to the audiobook, I would recommend it. If you want to read it, I would also recommend that you just have this around. It is very good. I really liked it. Was it a stressful read considering the times we are in and with everything that Donald Trump has been trying to do and is doing? Yes. But also, it's really important to read to see what we can do and what we can do to stop this. So, On Tyranny was another one that I read this month. The next one I read, I finally finished Amanda Gorman's Call Us What We Carry. I listened to, so with all my books, I listen to the audiobook as well as reading it, because I just find that it helps me focus more. And with like On Tyranny, Timothy Snyder does the audiobook. With Sunny Days, the audiobook, I don't remember the guy's name. I was going to look it up and I forgot. But the guy that does the audiobook does a really great job. And he sings the songs, which is kind of fun. He sings like the Sesame Street songs and like a few others that they include in there. So that's really fun. With Amanda Gorman's Call Us What We Carry, she does the audiobook for it. And this is so cool. I would recommend reading it because like physically seeing it, let me show you an example. So she does, some people I call it like Instagram poetry, but I just think that I don't know, I think it's really cool. So like to physically like see how some of it's written out is really cool. But then her like actual audiobook of this is so good because it's immersive, and so there's a whole set of poems about, wait, I'll show you. About this, it's about like soldiers and about the 1918 the flu. It's written in like letter format, but then there's also audio that goes with it, and it's really cool, and you wouldn't get that with just reading the book, but the actual book is really good with the audiobook. And I just love her poetry. I feel like her poetry is good if you haven't read poetry before, you're not as familiar with it. It makes it accessible to like everyone, because it's not like super challenging. I don't know, some poetry could be a little bit more complex or like hard to read or figure out. Hers is really good and also more like accessible to people who may not understand poetry as much, or like research. I took classes on it in school, and so like if you haven't done that, don't know as much about poetry, I feel like Amanda Gorman's is really good and a really good like introduction. One of her, I have like a bunch of her poems like bookmarked. But one of my favorite lines in this is, I could honestly do, maybe I will, I could honestly do an entire video on just her poetry, but one of her lines in her poems says, "Listen closely. Are you listening? There is no such thing as a gentle war. There is no peace that can't be flung aside. Our only enemy is that which would make us enemies to each other." And I feel like this is obviously, this whole thing is about the pandemic, but also about like Black Lives Matter too, and everything that's happened during that time. And I feel like this still rings true to this day. And again, everything that's happening with Ukraine and everything that's happening with Palestine and everything that's happening with Donald Trump, this is written about the pandemic and about like Black Lives Matter, but I feel like it's still really relevant and still applies to today. This is very good. This made me cry while I was reading it. but I would highly, highly recommend. So that's that one. The next one, okay, so the next one I have to look up the title of it because it was an audiobook. I am a little bit behind on my reading goal. My goal for this year is 75 books. I am 4 books behind. So I listened to a novella to try to get a little more caught up, because I've been writing more and I'm a slower reader, so it's taken me a bit of time. The one I listened to, it was And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, which was so good and it made me cry, but it was also very good. The book is about a grandpa and his son and grandchild, and the grandpa has dementia, and so it like progresses and he slowly like loses bits of his memory. And Frederick Bachman said he wasn't originally going to publish this, but he thought it would be good to, it's really short, it's an hour on the audiobook, but he thought that it would be good to like help people deal with like loss and like cope with loss and like aging and like getting older. And the story follows the grandpa and his like memories and his love for his grandchild and slowly losing his memory, and it's really sad but really, really, really well done. And it did not feel like an hour, it just felt, I don't know, it was really good and I loved it. Yeah, I would recommend. It is very sad though, so if you want a good cry, then I would recommend that. The next one that I'm finishing right now, and I'm like nearly done with it, I'll probably finish it today. My goal is I'm just going to read today. That's my whole thing, I'm just going to read. Because I have 3 books that I'm finishing before the end of May. And I'm nearly done with all of them, so that's the goal. But it is the Lore of Olympus series. This is, I'm reading it on Webtoon, which is where you can read it for like free. And I think I'm on like volume 8, based on how like the chapters and whatever are set up. I love Lore of Olympus. I think it's really well done and really well written and drawn, if you don't know. And it is a graphic novel of Hades and Persephone and essentially like their story. And it follows the Greek mythology of that. It's very good. It's like, I think we're quite popular right now and everyone seems to be reading it. I'm reading it for free on Webtoon and I really love it. I'm nearly done with volume 8 and so I'll add that into my May read list. But yeah, it's really good. The next one that I'm nearly done with, I literally have like a few pages left, but I stopped reading it so I could film this, so I could get it up for Friday. And it's All Systems Red by Martha Wells, and it's the Murderbot Diaries. They had just turned this into a show, and my dad and my younger sister had both read the book. My sister read it for class, and then she gave it to my dad because she thought he would really like it. And he did, and they made it into a show, and we've all been watching the show kind of together. But I was like, I love the show. It's so good. I need to read the book. And so I've been reading the book. It's in 3 hours, I think, on the audiobook. The audiobook, again, for this is really cool because it's immersive. So you get like different actors. There's 2 different versions of the audiobook. One is just the plain audiobook and then the other one is immersive, and I've been listening to the immersive one. And it's about a robot. What are they called? Sec units. And he names himself Murderbot. And it's from first person POV, so it's from his perspective, which makes it comical and funny. And he's assigned with these group of scientists, except for the thing is they don't know that he's taken over like his unit, so it's no longer like government control. He's controlling it, so he doesn't have to take commands anymore, but he can't let them know that. And so it's kind of like his internal like monologue and also how he communicates with them. It's really funny. It's really good. If you want a short, quick read, I would suggest this. And then also watch the show, because the show is really good, and it has one of the Skarsgårds is the murder bot, or the robot, I don't remember which one, but one of them is the murder bot. It's really good. I love the book, and I love the show. So that's this one, Murder Bot. And All Systems Red. So the last book I've been reading is by a Palestinian American author named Hala Alyan. This is really good. This is historical fiction, and it follows Alia, a girl named Alia, and it starts on her wedding day. And it follows kind of like the history of Palestine, and it talks about each of her family's like stories and how they've been uprooted and displaced. One of the things that is in this too is she talks about how they were privileged to have money to be able to relocate, and it's really sad, but in historical fiction it describes the history of like Palestine and kind of what's been happening in the occupation. I think this is really good, a really important read. When I finish this, I'll finish it this week. My goal is before the end of May. So I've got like, what, 2 days, 3 days, something like that. And then maybe next week I'll give a full review of this, because I feel like I should like properly finish it and then review it. But so far I really love this, and it's really good. It's really sad. And with everything that's happening in Palestine currently, and the starvation of children and them not letting food and aid through still, and just weaponizing it against children and children being starved to death is so awful and heart-wrenching, and I don't understand why these leaders don't see what's happening and like don't care. There's so many people that have been yelling at them and crying out, and it's just awful and devastating, and it hurts my heart every time I see it. And there's so much I can do, and if one thing is talking about it in every single video that I make until there's a permanent ceasefire, until they let aid in and medicine in and food for these children who are innocent and haven't done anything, I have just decided that every single video from here on now I will be talking about Palestine, because it's so important right now and they need our voices. So Salt Houses is reading about it, and reading about everything that's happening is one way we can do this. Yeah, so I've been reading Salt Houses. It's really good so far. Next week I will give you a full review once I've completely finished it, because I feel like that's fair. So if you want to help with anything to do with Palestine, or you want more information, I will leave that down below. One of the people that I follow, her name is Renad, and she's in Palestine right now, and she makes cooking content and baking videos, and she is down to eating 1 meal a day because there's no food and no water and no access to medication or anything for these people that are living there. She's 11. She's a child. Like, I don't understand this, and it's so upsetting. But she's been raising money to get flour to like bake with and cook with for people in Palestine and in Gaza. And she's also been raising money to get hygiene kits for the people in Palestine and in Gaza. And so I will leave that down below. If you would like to donate, you can. She's adorable, and you can also leave her information down below. You can follow her. So yeah, that is it for my video this week. These are all the books that I've been reading. Nearly done. Nearly done. I've got like literally a few pages left. So yeah, next week I'll give you an update. And then I also have to decide what I want to read for June. So if you have any suggestions of what I should read for June, let me know down below. I feel like I don't know what I want to read yet. So yeah. Also, you watched my May TBR of like what I wanted to read, I strayed so far from it, so I kind of like give it a loose idea of what I want to read and then just kind of go off of vibes. So this is everything that I've read so far this month. Let me know what I should read in June. I would love to know that. I love you all. I will see you next Friday with a brand new video. Bye!